Good morning, everybody. I am not going to use any PowerPoint or any type of slides today, so we won't have to go through that piece of technology. But I did want to just say off the top that if Paneet ever invites any of you for coffee and talks about an NPO GR type conference thing, even if it was pre-pandemic, don't assume he's just dreaming or blowing hot air, because you actually could be me sitting here as we discuss. So I thanks Puneet for following through, and it really is a pleasure to be here today. I'm hoping to talk a little bit more in, as I suggested, a conversational style about a local kind of grassroots response to GR. We in Big Brothers Big Sisters of Peel, and recently we have unified with Big Brothers Big Sisters of York, so we are working through that process. And so I will say Peel or Peel York, you'll kind of find your way through that with me. But I think taking some of what we've learned already this morning and reinforcing it and reflecting on it just from, a real kind of layperson's response to that, and what that really means for us as we're working day to day in the operations of a local charity with respect to government relations and certainly some advocacy. So basically, my specific example is, what does all this mean for a local organization encompassing 2 urban regions with 13 municipalities, 2 regional level governments, and a multitude of MPPs and MPs? And basically, I would say that it means you just keep going. And I say that because you've already started, even though you might think you haven't. Paneet's seed planting of this conference sent me on a bit of a personal reflection journey that was kind of actually quite fun to figure out, if GR, why it was kind of scary to folks sometimes, and why, everyone was always looking for a secret sauce to it, shall we say, when really we're all doing it all of the time. It's just a matter of how we define it and how we think about the work we're doing. I've been passionate about mentoring for the past 26 years. You'll see in my bio that I've been busy in the Big Brothers Big Sisters network, specifically in a variety of communities throughout Ontario. I've been working both professionally and personally with an intervention that I've had the privilege to witness truly life-changing impact. I've seen mentoring from the front line. When I put my social work hat on, I did start in the movement in the social work part of the business. And then from the administrative vantage point, and most importantly from my heart, as I have stumbled and occasionally succeeded at a 26-year relationship with my own little sister. And so that just provides the context of how passionately I feel about mentoring and how much it's involved in my life and my world. As I organized my thoughts, it involved a lot of reminiscing, and also the continual reinforcement that the intentional and the unintentional effort that we put in our day-to-day work can be equally successful with outcomes. My journey has largely been focused on relationship and partnership development, both strategic and needs-based, but it's embedded in responding to the local needs in my direct service area. Mentoring has long been regarded as a nice-to-have support, but it is actually an essential intervention to ensure that children and youth thrive. 2 years into this pandemic, we see mentoring as a way to ensure the increased complexity of challenges impacting children and youth can be supportively addressed. Basically, QGR, and the reason I'm sharing today, you would think that the aforementioned context would be enough to get mentoring the attention it deserves in the political and government spaces, yet it doesn't. There is much work to be done to advocate for the evidence-based, data-driven outcomes and impact of mentoring or an early intervention or prevention-based supports. Many of us have worked tirelessly to row our supporters and funders upstream, often in a leaky boat, so we can actually resource the root causes that are multiplying and iterating further down the river. At Big Brothers Big Sisters of Peel York, we started with a small amount of municipal funding and have moved into direct TPA relationships and grown municipal funding for up to 35% of our revenue base. We aspire to core funding, but realize that our sustainability as a local agency is built around revenue diversification and resource management. I also want to highlight the government support. Before we as an agency had government support directly, we were able to say we didn't get government support. And frankly, if we switch hats, that is a fundraising tactic when your revenue generating initiatives go in other directions in terms of your fund development pieces. So now we can't say that, but now with our diversification, we can focus on engaging, partnering, and matching funding in a cross-sectorial response to the issues that need support in our community. I wanted to talk a little bit today too about the unique features of a federated model from a local perspective. We've talked a lot about that. Other presenters have talked about that, and Big Brothers Big Sisters is a federation. So we think about things like risk management, brand synergy, collaborative response, and we have to understand continually that what happens on one side of the country often carries forward. People hear Big Brothers Big Sisters and full stop. The local context is irrelevant, especially as it relates to national politics. So it's a time to draw on our collective impact, and with 99 agencies within our network and 40 of them working in Ontario, you really need to think about what that collective impact is, find your synergies, because we all do respond locally, but we have a lot of power in our unified voice going forward too. You locally need to evidence your responses to your own unique pockets of needs and trends and kind of balance that with what the messages are both provincially and across the country. Of course, federally, we contemplate our national politics and are part of that conversation in those initiatives. We've had Days on the Hill. We do those types of initiatives that helps propel and elevate the concept of mentoring into the minds of our local MPs to take it at a national level. So we have a voice both in our local context, within the federal context, and certainly then our collective voice federally. Our provincial work, and I am part of an initiative in Ontario with Big Brothers Big Sisters agencies, which is called the Ontario Big Brother Big Sister Agencies Collaborative. So, and we really try to glean best practices and share resources so that we are able to amplify our voices provincially around mentoring children and youth within the province, and how the 40 agencies in the province are doing that together. So we have solidified ministry funding, provincial ministry funding in that space. We have Queen's Park receptions in that space, and we're able to champion mentoring across various ministries too, as we have conversations and we think about mentoring being a tool to be able to help many social causes and help vulnerable populations succeed. I think some of this is going to be some tips and reflections, but one of the things I would say is don't fixate always on the ministry that most closely aligns with your mission. Innovate your impact through some side doors as part of a system or solution or a problem to solve. Sometimes we can use mentoring, as a tool in many different ways. And so sometimes we have to force ourselves to think kind of beyond what we might traditionally align ourselves with, and think about a way that mentoring can help a movement or initiative as we move forward. You may have an obvious fix or core funding, but the impact looks different to different people. And so it's really important that you consider maybe more non-traditional, non-obvious ways of getting your agent of impact kind of into the spaces of our government officials and those who are interested in hearing our story and those who we are compelled to tell them to. The other provincial tool, and this is also happens to us nationally too, is we're able to collectively gather our resources and kind of have a toolbox for GR within the context of the Big Brother Big Sister network, and that's handy. Someone before me talked a little bit about that in terms of being able to just insert name here and do those types of things, so that you were able to have a collective message, yet it's coming at those who need to read it from all different parts of either the province, the country, or even from a regional lens too. So the other thing with the kind of scope and scale of the Big Brother Big Sister network itself, we have a variety of local agencies with various capacities and resources. And so having those kinds of toolkits helps get our message forward, even for those agencies who aren't able to do it because of limited resources on their in their local communities. So it does align us that way and aligns our messaging and our branding as we're taking forward mentoring to the appropriate wherever we're needing to take it at the time. And then municipally, we get lots of event support, lots of folks coming out and wanting to be part of our fundraising events, of our kind of volunteer recruitment initiatives, those types of things. We can tap into our municipal partners when we need amplification around something. Volunteer recruitment is often one that they're really helpful in sharing with their network. And so that's been a great tool for us. And just being able to be an ambassador for whatever your story is. For ours, it's mentoring. So to be able to take that forward and have the support of your municipal level government officials there has been really critical and really helped us be successful. I'm going to go over a few reflections now that stick out for me related to how you capture opportunities gleaned from coincidentally being in the right place at the right time, intentionally being in the right place at the right time, and then of course being in the wrong place at the right time and the right place at the wrong time. So all of those pieces, it kind of led me to why I called my session the way it did, because some of it is so intentional and some of it is just the luck of being where you are at that time. So just wanting to reflect on the whole idea of not beating yourself up, shall we say, if you've done something wrong, because it really is a game of sometimes you win and sometimes you don't. So I liked about saying, it's a slow haul until it's not, and that can very often be the case. So I talked already about relationships, but I can't enforce how important relationship and partnership development is in GR work. And I think for us at Big Brothers Big Sisters of Peel York, it has been the key to some of our successes in this space in terms of moving mentoring forward in our local community. If we were not already working at relationship building and being partners and doing collaborative work, we wouldn't have had the opportunities that we have. And so I can't really reinforce that enough. It situates you strongly to manage the ebbs and flows of political climates too. You can envision and you can innovate. You don't have to be afraid that you're not always leading initiatives either. Often a supporting role in an initiative can be more impactful than a leadership role. So know the power of your impact, and most importantly, know how it enhances a systems approach to solving and supporting community issues. So taking whatever your direct impact is and moving it into a systems change model and mindset can really be helpful in being ready when there's a call for funding or when there's an opportunity to highlight the whatever your cause is and whatever your impact is. Basically being there at a systems level to be able to talk about your specific tool in respect to change is an important piece. You have to be committed to reflecting your community and staying on top of the trends and both current and also working on the emerging trends and needs that you see in your localized environment. You are the amplifier of the needs of those that you support. So be curious, seek input, nimbly respond, and you then become the impact agency of government, and do that fearlessly. Like, you are the voice. They need to hear your voice. You are bringing the concerns of your local community forward, and that in essence is key for them. They need that information. So don't ever shy away from that, and for finding opportunities and for taking opportunities to actually share that. Foster a readiness to try something new and use the learning to enhance and recast. Part of this is managing your reputation. So ensure that you're always doing the best work that you possibly can, so that you will be top of mind if opportunities come your way. Do your research. Know how what you do is important to the platforms and initiatives of the political connections you're making. And in tandem with an ask, reciprocate with a question about what you can do for them. Again, we are the impact agents. We're needed, and our voice matters on the ground because we know the realities and can communicate the realities of those we support and interact with. For my particular impact, which is mentoring, stories are a super powerful tool. So find your ambassadors to showcase your intervention, both internally and within various levels of government. We are fortunate to be a volunteer-driven organization, and so we have impact agencies everywhere. Sometimes part of our job is finding them and finding them in the right places, and then being able to utilize, their testimonial, their story as part of propelling the power of our movement forward. As a sidebar to this idea, ensure your relationships with the bureaucratic side of government are intact and strong. As the first speaker this morning talked about, the bureaucrats are the tenacity of the government. And so they are there, and that relationship and moving those relationships forward and making sure that they think of you when opportunities arise is a really important piece of the work that we do. It helps sustain our funding. It helps grow funding from a dollar figure, and also helps take our message through various government ministries and departments, and so that you can be top of mind when political swings come our way or that type of thing too. So that it really does help with the tenacity of that. Resist, resist, resist the chase the funding game. And I know that this is a challenge. I know we all face it in lots of different ways. But dangling pots of funding in front of us can cause mission drift. Try to resist it because we are the impact agents and we have the opportunity to inform, the opportunity and the responsibility to inform and educate the government to the current needs and trends. We are an important piece of data, and staying on mission embeds this legitimacy. That's not to say you can't mission enhance, mission explode, or even mission recast, but do it because of what you know and what you've been told. And if you need to shift your mission, it should come from within. Shifting when your community tells you to, not when funding opportunities do. We at Big Brothers Big Sisters of Peel York are an intentionally nonpartisan organization, and we have a practice to have no sitting politicians at any level at our governance level. It actually has opened up conversations and opportunities for conversation again and again. So we want to, you want to be, fortunately, and I guess I do want to address this too, we do have mentoring and children and youth. Everyone likes that, right? So that it's not like we have an unappealing cause, but I think being nonpartisan and being very clear about that opens up our messaging to it's to a lot more tables at a lot of different times. So I think that's a really important message there too. Partner more, silo less. Compete for outcomes, not for funding. And I think those are some reflections that you can all take into your own work and think that through. But really, that systems level partnership is really putting you and your cause in a place that has that collective impact outcome that is sought after as we're thinking about systems and community change. Queen's Park, we've had several events there, and I just wanted to talk about kind of event specific government relations, because events are just events if there's no follow-up. And certainly an awareness and a toe in the door, those kinds of things, they're important to have. But to really have that progressional piece, you have to have a whole strategy around your event in terms of why you're running the event and what are the outcomes. What is it going to lead to? An ask? Is it going to lead to meetings? Are you following it up? Are you doing all your appropriate pieces around that? So really get the support that you need if you are doing an event, so that it really has the deep embedded impact and engagement that you're really seeking after. Because the next event will be probably in the next 5 minutes. And so you have to find ways to do follow-up so that you remain top of mind and that your goals of your events are actually being met. The other reflection I had is go to strange things. And I know that probably sounds strange, but go to different types of events. Go to the opening of a sector, a corporate, partners, new building where political officials are going to be there. Be present. And be present not always where you're expected to be present, because the fact that you're present there can kind of cause a little bit of a buzz too around, okay, well, what are they doing here? That's interesting that they were here. So it can kind of indirectly bring you to top of mind. I know resources are limited and it's hard enough to get to the things that we need to get to, but it's just when you're looking for that little element of net new, or something different. That's something that's worked well for us, just around bringing mentoring into different spaces and getting the attention of different types of people so that they see mentoring as a possibility in terms of partnering or their intervention or funding or whatever that looks like. So that's just another thought I had. And encourage employees and your volunteer base, if you're blessed to have one, such as we are at Big Brothers Big Sisters of Peel York, to bring forward their networks and connections and explore and pilot. Sometimes our internal resources are the ones that we don't tap the most. Often for us, we say, well, they're already donating their time to volunteer with the child directly in our programs. And so they couldn't possibly have any more time to do anything else. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask to tap their networks. Don't forget where they might work or where they might be involved with and how they might be able to become an ambassador for the work that you're doing within various levels of government as well. I have 2 or 3 quick examples kind of that are that happen to us. And I think, you know, when we're thinking about on the ground work in the government relations space and how it just doesn't always follow a path, but is very fluid and the journey can be very disjointed at times. I just have a couple that are kind of funny, actually, and they were kind of fun to think about and to chat with my leadership team about. The one is I was talking, I was thinking again about the political folks. You know, they are quick to respond. They work, you know, they move quickly. They are only thinking about kind of the next thing. And so we get calls from them very quickly with opportunities for an announcement at your facility or those kinds of things. And, you know, they give you 5 minutes. And if we're in the middle of putting our gala on, for example, and have the whole place full of silent auction items, that's just the way it is. The funny thing about it is they know that about us in our local community, but they still keep calling. And, you know, I figured that's good. The best part is every time that they come for a site visit before they want to do an announcement at our facility, they say, oh, you don't have a foyer or an atrium or like a big glass place to put, you know, our podium up and our flags. Well, we don't. And, you know, but that does put us top of mind into and reinforces the work that we're doing and showcases that. So for us, it's both comical and the fact that they just keep checking back in to see if we have that atrium is kind of funny. Our we've had provincial funding for a number of years for our Black mentoring program. And I do remember when that funding, when we learned about that funding, and it came from the minister at the time calling me from his cell phone. And it was hilarious because I wasn't familiar with the minister and did not have a relationship with the minister. The background of the information is we had put a proposal in to fund our newly developed Black mentoring program, which was in partnership with the Black Mentoring Advisory Group of the United Way in Peel. And that had been 2.5 years prior. And so what we learned from this is, you know, showcase your work, put proposals forward, talk about what you're doing, try. Because it might not be forgotten, because 2.5 years later, we were called and it was, hi, and I'll just call him Bob. This is Bob, we have some money for you. I can't remember how much it is. I'm in the car right now, but we'll get back to you. We want to pilot with a couple agencies. You proposed something 2.5 years ago. It works for us now. We'd like to try it before we open the main funding stream. So the scramble that went on in our office around remembering, what proposal we'd actually put in, and B, figuring out who this minister was and what this was actually all about was hilarious, and we still talk about it to this day. The final example I have is around our federal funding example. We had developed a program, a mentoring program for newcomer youth. And it was called the Conversation Club, and it still is today. And this was back in 2008. And we had started a small pilot with in a net new partnership with us, which was within the settlement sector. And us as a mainstream kind of organization hadn't done much work in the settlement sector, but knew that we were seeing a lot of newcomer youth that were reaching out for mentoring support, and knew we had to develop a program of that nature. And so this got the federal funding that it currently has today. And actually we received almost $4 million in funding from direct funding for this program, just by summer students calling around and seeing if anybody had a mentoring program to be able to fit what their mandate was. And so it has opened up so many doors for us, so many doors for the youth in Peel and York, and especially with our high newcomer population in our geographical catchment area, but also afforded us a place around the table with the settlement sector, and really helped us more deeply bring mentoring into our localized environment and our localized reality. And so that was simply an opportunity that came with a phone call, and answering that phone call and actually following up with that. So those are the few things that I wanted to share today. I too am cognizant of the time, and so I will kind of end it there with those reflections. But I think if I was to leave you with one thing today, it would be about building your cause or your particular impact into a systems approach, and so that you have a readiness to collectively respond to any issues that are coming down the pipeline, and also that are on platforms and on the political radar. You have a readiness. We're going to be much more successful as a sector together if we respond and in a way that's already well thought out and already brought together. We know that partnerships, collaborative work are a really important part of what the government is looking for now. So I encourage you to find seats around tables and to advocate for your cause, to be there and to be part of a solution for community change going forward. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Sherilyn. That was fantastic. So much of what you said and what you drew upon, your experiences, are so familiar to me as someone who's been doing government relations for a long time now, including receiving phone calls saying that we have some money, can you use it? So that leads me to my question, right? So how do you, and you spoke about this at the end of your presentation just now, but how do you make sure that you're prepared to take those opportunities? And, you know, very specifically, this happened in my experience, where a proposal that we had developed for a particular ministry was accepted, and it was accepted with the dollar ask that we had included. However, when they came back and said, hey, your proposal was successful, the client, my client, just wasn't ready to deliver on it. So how do you prepare yourself to take those opportunities?
Well, I think a lot of the things, Puneet, that I talked about are really, they're reflections on your readiness, right? So you want to be able to know your community, know your organization, be solid, reputationally and administratively, so you actually can be nimble and fluid and be responsive. And the other thing is, if you can't do it, be part of a solution to find someone who can. If you're not ready right now, perhaps someone that is. And I think having those relationships and having seats around tables that are important in your community for a local collective response are really important too. I think offering to pilot and to try something out is often a great opportunity. And I mean, the one of my case studies, the phone call one that I shared, I mean, that's exactly what happened there. And then we were able to iterate and grow and feedback. You don't have to be perfect right out of the gate. You have to be willing to try and to use your data and your evidence and your community leverage to be able to build that and grow that. So I think you have to keep moving forward, doing your work and recognizing it will impact, at some point in time.
Yeah, that's great. And it really sort of validates this idea that government relations is sort of non-linear, right? It can be all over the place, and opportunities can present themselves from out of the blue, or they can go according to your plan exactly, right? So thank you so much, Sherry. Then I know that you offer a lot in terms of mentoring and that whole subject area, but in terms of government relations, I thought it was fascinating how you explained how you do it, and sort of this nimble and flexible approach to doing it, because I don't think that we speak about that enough, where you just sort of have to start, right? You have to start trying. So thank you for that. And
Thank you.
all right, well, have a good break, everyone, and we'll be back at 12:30. Take care.